For thousands of years, diamonds have been among the most valuable substances on Earth. Diamonds are not only the hardest substance known, but they're also incredibly hard to find. However, in the last several decades, researchers have discovered ways to make diamonds in the lab, and they're now being made at scale. It has the potential to revolutionize multiple industries. Learn more about synthetic diamonds and how they're changing the use and value of diamonds on this episode of Everything Everywhere Daily. This episode is sponsored by Aura Frames. I've told you how much I love Aura Frames. However, I'm not the only one. It was selected 3 times as one of Oprah's favorite things and named the #1 digital picture frame by Wirecutter, The Strategist, Wired Magazine, and PC Magazine. It was also recommended by Good Morning America, The Today Show, Forbes, The Wall Street Journal, and more. With Aura Frames, you can set it up quickly, update it from anywhere, and be sure that the images will be displayed in the highest quality possible. If you want to give the gift of memories this holiday, there might be no better way to do it than with Aura Frames. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver Mat frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code DAILY at checkout. That's AURA frames.com, promo code DAILY. This deal is exclusive to listeners and frames sell out fast, so order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning it at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. This episode is sponsored by Mint Mobile. You know, you don't have to let big wireless and your overpriced phone bill suck the joy out of the holidays this year, because right now, all of Mint Mobile's unlimited plans are 50% off. You can get 3, 6, or 12 months of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. It's their best deal of the year and makes it really easy for you to give your expensive wireless bill the Scrooge treatment. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. That's why I recommend Mint Mobile. Turn your expensive wireless present into a huge wireless savings future by switching to Mint. Shop Mint Unlimited plans at mintmobile.com/EED. That's mintmobile.com/EED. Limited time offer. Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month, $90 for 6-month, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 a month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 35 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com. In a previous episode, quite a while ago, I covered diamonds. That was more of a high-level overview, and in it I mentioned the creation of synthetic diamonds. In this episode, I want to zoom in and go deeper on one of the biggest topics in material science right now, synthetic diamonds. First, a brief recap of what makes diamonds special. Diamonds are made out of carbon, and that's it. There are different ways you can arrange pure carbon atoms in what's known as an allotrope. The most common is graphite, in which carbon atoms are arranged in a 2-dimensional sheet. Diamonds are a 3-dimensional lattice of carbon atoms. Getting them to form this 3-dimensional lattice is extremely difficult and can only be done at extremely high temperatures and pressure. In nature, this can only be done deep inside the Earth. The diamonds that people have encountered throughout history reach the surface after being transported from deep within the Earth. This is extremely rare, meaning that there are only a few places on the planet where natural diamonds can be found. Diamonds have several exceptional properties. As most of you probably know, diamonds are the hardest natural substance known. That isn't their only notable feature, however. Diamond has the highest thermal conductivity of any bulk material at room temperature. Meaning, if you want to transport heat away from something, you cannot beat diamond. It also means that diamond is a horrible thermal insulator. Diamond is also optically transparent across a wide range of electromagnetic wavelengths as well. The problem is that diamonds are also very pretty. When cut correctly, they can fetch a very high price. The high price of diamonds, coupled with their extreme usefulness in industrial and commercial applications, poses a problem. Which, of course, raised a question. If the conditions deep inside the Earth can be replicated in a laboratory, can we create diamonds? The quest to create diamonds artificially dates back centuries, with early alchemists and scientists attempting various methods to transform carbon into its most prized crystalline form. However, it wasn't until the mid-20th century that legitimate success was achieved. In 1954, scientists at General Electric, led by Tracy Hall, successfully created the first reproducible synthetic diamonds using a high-pressure, high-temperature process. This breakthrough came after years of failed attempts and represented a watershed moment in material science. Hall's team used a belt press apparatus that could generate the extreme conditions necessary for diamond formation, pressures exceeding 1.5 million pounds per square inch and temperatures around 1500 degrees Celsius. The first synthetic diamonds were small and primarily suitable for industrial applications rather than jewelry. Throughout the 1960s and 70s, the technology improved, with companies like De Beers also developing their own methods, though they initially were focused on industrial rather than gem-quality production. The landscape shifted dramatically in the 1980s and 1990s with the development of chemical vapor deposition, or CVD technology. This alternative method opened new possibilities for creating larger, higher quality diamonds. Today, there are two dominant growth routes, and most of the modern market is some mix of them. HPHT, or high pressure, high temperature, is essentially a fast engineered version of deep earth conditions. Carbon source material, which is often graphite, and a small diamond seed crystal is placed in a press with a metal solvent catalyst. Under very high pressure and temperatures, the carbon dissolves into the molten metal and precipitates onto the seed, building a larger diamond crystal. CVD grows diamond from a carbon-bearing gas rather than dissolving carbon in a molten metal. A diamond seed sits in a vacuum chamber, while a hydrogen-rich gas mixture with a carbon source, usually methane, is energized often by microwave plasma. Carbon deposits on the seed and crystallizes as diamond, layer by layer. Over time, the rough crystal is cut off and the surface can be re-prepared for further growth. From the 80s through the 90s, both HPHT and CVD technologies advanced steadily. Improvements in press design, catalysts, and temperature control allowed HPHT diamonds to grow larger and purer. At the same time, CVD technology benefited from advances in plasma physics, vacuum systems, and semiconductor manufacturing. Researchers learned how to suppress graphite formation, control crystal orientation, and reduce defects. During this period, synthetic diamonds began to appear that were optically transparent and of gem quality, although production volumes remained small and the costs were high. The late 90s and early 2000s marked a turning point. Companies in Russia, Japan, China, and later the United States and Europe expanded industrial diamond production dramatically. China in particular became a dominant producer of synthetic diamonds for industrial uses. Meanwhile, gemological laboratories such as the Gemological Institute of America developed reliable methods to distinguish natural diamonds from synthetic ones, which became increasingly important as lab-grown stones entered the jewelry supply chain. In the early 2000s, small numbers of lab-grown diamonds began appearing in the consumer market. And here I need to reiterate, just in case it hasn't been clear, that synthetic diamonds are chemically exactly the same as natural diamonds. Jewelers and gemologists distinguish natural diamonds from synthetic ones by examining subtle growth features and trace signatures that reflect how the crystal formed rather than by basic appearance. Using specialized instruments, laboratories look for internal patterns such as growth zoning, metallic inclusions from HPHT catalysts, or layered growth structures typical of CVD diamonds, which differ from the irregular geologic growth features seen in natural stones. For decades, lab-grown diamonds were confined to industrial uses, which actually strengthened the mine diamond industry by preserving natural stones almost exclusively for jewelry. However, once gem-quality synthetic diamonds became commercially available in the late 1990s, and especially in the 2010s, the boundary between industrial material and luxury product collapsed. Consumers were suddenly presented with stones that were chemically and physically identical to mine diamonds, but available in larger sizes, higher clarity, and, most importantly, lower prices. This introduced real price competition into a market that had historically avoided it. Lab-grown diamonds behave economically like manufactured goods rather than mined commodities. As production capacity expanded, costs fell rapidly. Retail prices for lab-grown diamonds declined year after year, often dramatically, while natural diamond prices stagnated or declined modestly. The widening price gap forced retailers to confront uncomfortable questions from consumers about value, markup, and long-term worth. Synthetic diamonds also disrupted the resale and investment narrative around natural diamonds. While diamonds were never truly liquid investments, the perception that they held long-term value was important to consumer psychology. The existence of a visually identical product with rapidly falling prices highlighted that much of a diamond's value was social rather than intrinsic. This realization has been particularly damaging to the mid-market segment, where buyers are more price-sensitive and less motivated by extreme rarity. In response, the traditional diamond industry has increasingly repositioned natural diamonds as luxury goods defined by origin, geology, and story, rather than by material properties alone. Marketing shifted towards emphasizing natural formation over billions of years, uniqueness, and emotional authenticity. Certification schemes expanded to include provenance, and narratives around craftsmanship, heritage, and romance were reinforced. In effect, natural diamonds began to resemble fine art or wine more than industrial materials, with value tied to narrative and scarcity rather than function. Yet, most of this was just marketing, as they are still, chemically, the same as synthetic diamonds. The production of synthetic diamonds has experienced explosive growth over the last 2 decades. In the early 2000s, global production of gem-quality synthetic diamonds was negligible, measured in thousands of carats annually. By 2020, production had reached several million carats per year, and estimates for 2023 suggest that production may have exceeded 10 million carats. This represents more than a 1,000-fold increase in just 2 decades. The growth has been driven by technological improvements, increased investment, and expanding production facilities, particularly in China, India, and the United States. The price trajectory of synthetic diamonds tells an amazing story. In the mid-2000s, gem-quality lab-grown diamonds commanded prices only marginally below natural diamonds, sometimes reaching 80 to 90% of comparable natural stone prices. However, as production scaled and technology matured, prices began falling precipitously. By 2015, lab-grown diamonds typically sold for about 30 to 40% less than natural diamonds, and this discount widened dramatically in the subsequent years. By 2020, 1-carat lab-grown diamonds were selling at roughly 40 to 50% off natural diamonds. By 2023, the differential had grown even larger, with many lab-grown diamonds priced at 70 to 90% below comparable natural diamonds. A 1-carat natural diamond that might cost $4,000 to $6,000 could have a lab-grown equivalent available for $400 to $800, or even less from some producers. While gem-quality diamonds get most of the attention, this really isn't the most interesting aspect of synthetic diamonds. It's industrial and commercial usage. The impetus for this episode came from my research into buying speakers for a hi-fi sound system. Many of the speakers claim to have diamond-coated tweeters, and this struck me as odd, so I began to dig into why this is even a thing. Diamond-coated tweeters are used because diamond is exceptionally stiff, very light for its strength, and doesn't flex easy, which helps a speaker reproduce high frequencies more cleanly and accurately. The stiffer a tweeter dome is, the less it bends as it moves, reducing distortion and making details sound clearer. To make them, manufacturers form a very thin dome from a lightweight metal and then coat it with a microscopic layer of diamond. Speakers, however, are just the tip of the iceberg. The largest industrial use of diamonds is in cutting, grinding, drilling, and polishing. Diamond abrasives are bonded into saw blades, drill bits, grinding wheels, and polishing pastes used for cutting stone, concrete, asphalt, ceramics, glass, and hard metals. In manufacturing, diamond tools are essential for machining precision components, including engine parts, turbine blades, and semiconductor wafers. Oil and gas drilling relies on diamond-impregnated drill bits that can survive intense heat, pressure, and abrasion deep underground. In electronics manufacturing, diamond abrasives are used to slice silicon and other crystals into wafers with extremely tight tolerances. Another major industrial role is heat management. This makes it extremely valuable as a heat spreader or heat sink in high-power electronics, such as radio frequency amplifiers, laser diodes, and power transistors. Synthetic diamond plates are already used in niche applications where overheating limits performance or reliability. As prices fall, diamond heat sinks become more viable in more mainstream electronics. As diamonds get cheaper and production techniques improve, you can expect to see diamonds in more and more applications. If you've ever used a heatsink on a computer CPU, well, the ultimate heatsink would be one made of diamond. One of the biggest things that synthetic diamond manufacturers are working on today is adding impurities to diamonds. A perfectly pure diamond is often less useful than a diamond with carefully controlled defects. By introducing elements such as nitrogen, boron, or silicon during growth, manufacturers can tune the diamond's color, electrical behavior, optical properties, and quantum characteristics. In jewelry, nitrogen or boron can create yellow, blue, or other fancy colors on demand, increasing product variety and value. In electronics, boron doping can make diamonds electrically conductive, opening the door to high-powered semiconductors that outperform silicon in extreme environments. In sensing and quantum technologies, specific defects such as nitrogen vacancy centers enable diamonds to detect magnetic fields, temperature, and strain with extraordinary precision. Rather than flaws, these impurities make diamond a customizable engineering material. And as synthetic production improves, controlling defects has become one of the most critical ways to expand diamond's practical and commercial uses. Despite the enormous impact synthetic diamonds have had in the jewelry industry, we are only just now beginning the widespread use of diamonds in everyday applications. As production techniques improve and costs decrease, we'll see diamonds in more and more products, which will perhaps usher in a brand new Diamond Age. The executive producer of Everything Everywhere Daily is Charles Daniel. The associate producers are Austin Oetken and Cameron Kieffer. My big thanks go to everyone who supports the show over on Patreon. Your support helps make this podcast possible. And I also want to remind everyone about the community groups on Facebook and Discord. That's where everything happens that's outside the podcast, and links to those are available in the show notes. As always, if you leave a review on any major podcast app or in the above community groups, you too can have it read on the show.